With the Eastern Empire's armored division annihilated, we jump over to Yuki. In that time, I got reincarnated as a slime, volume 14. A meeting is currently being held, with Yuki, Kaguli, Misha, and the Jesters. It's unbelievable that Rimuru won without taking a single casualty, all the while Laplace and Misha both complain they almost died. This group then discusses their old friend, now turned traitor, Damrata. Kaguli believes he must have been manipulating Clayman, though Misha points out that Damrata really did help them infiltrate the East. It's impossible to determine Damrata's motives, but Yuki suspects him to be a single-digit Imperial Guardian. Also, Damrata was the one who assassinated Ghidorah, though he did know of resurrection bracelets, so maybe his true intention was to prevent Kondo from interrogating Ghidorah. Then again, if he's an Imperial Guardian, why would he go against Kondo, and even allow the armor vision to be annihilated? What if the Emperor wanted the soldiers to die? That way he could use their souls for a ritual. Then thinking back to Clayman again, they begin to suspect he must have been mind-controlled. Luckily, Yuki is immune to that stuff, so he's able to verify nobody here is under the same influence. Laplace and Misha believe they should flee, but Yuki can't bring himself to abandon the composite division. I mean, it's always possible that Damrata actually wanted the coup to succeed, and thus calls out to their eavesdropper. Confidently entering and declaring this building is surrounded, Damrata admits to truly wanting the coup, and that he only attacked Ghidorah to keep him out of Kondo's hands. You see, Damrata swore loyalty to the Emperor, however he also claims loyalty to Yuki. To him, the only way to save the Emperor is to defeat him, though Yuki isn't sure if they can trust Damrata again. Next they bring up Clayman's death, and Damrata claims he wasn't involved, making the only other suspect Tatsuya Kondo. With that, Yuki looks into his former friend's eyes, confirms his sincerity hasn't changed, and agrees to continue trusting and working alongside Damrata. Tempest holds a festival to celebrate their victory, which has brought in people from all around the world. Shuna gives a speech on Rimuru's behalf, all the while he debates who he should awaken using the souls from the war. Some souls contain more power than others. Would you like to balance them out? Which leaves Rimuru with 1 million souls at his disposal, meaning he can awaken up to 10 of his subordinates. An awakening always runs the risk of the person falling into a deep sleep, though with the armor vision destroyed and Yuki being a pseudo-ally, Rimuru believes the risk is minimum. Benimaru is the first person called forward. Rimuru explains he wants to awaken him, but as expected, Benimaru refuses. Our slime, however, isn't taking no for an answer, and announces that Benimaru will henceforth be known as
the Flare Lord,
just as Raphael transfers 100,000 souls. Surprisingly, nothing happens, followed by Benimaru revealing that evolving into a god ogre will take away his ability to have children, and currently he still feels the need to have a child for his tribe. After an awkward silence, Rimuru announces that Benimaru wants to get married and proceeds to ask which woman he chooses. Warning, Benimaru might kill you for this. With hand on sword, Hakuryu asks who he's chosen. Suddenly, Momiji volunteers to be Benimaru's wife, followed by Alvis volunteering to be a second wife. Apparently, both women grew tired of battling for Benimaru's love and came to an agreement to happily share him. In Tempest, polygamy is illegal, with the only exception being a widow seeking child. To Benimaru's relief, Rimuru explains the law, but Alvis was prepared for this. In a sad turn of events, Alvis recently got married, but alas, her husband passed away. We come to find out, Alvis agreed to marry Fobio, under the condition that afterward they fight to the death inside the dungeon. If he won, she'd be his wife for real, but as expected he died, which technically makes Alvis a widow. Shuna then declares it's time for Benimaru to give them an answer, but he feels like polygamy is wrong. Soe exclaims if you don't love one of them, just come out and say it, and Rimuru states it's time to choose. With sincerity, Benimaru warns them that he won't always be around and that he may evolve further in the future. One of them confidently declares they'll evolve alongside him after having child, and the other states that if she's not able to evolve into a spiritual being, their child can bring him comfort when she passes away. After hearing their resolve, Benimaru boldly asks our slime if he can take 2 wives, causing Demon Lord Rimuru to officially announce Benimaru's engagement to both women. Next, Gobta, Geld, and Gabiru are called forward. Now, our small goblin isn't eligible for an awakening, so Rimuru instead wants to grant him a special privilege. Since Gobta sucks at acting formal anyways, Rimuru officially gives him permission to refer to him in a casual manner.
Why does he deserve that?
On to Geld, he's given the title of
Barrier Lord.
And using thought communication, Rimuru warns everyone who he plans to awaken. As expected, Geld declines, believing Carrera to be more worthy, so Rimuru reassures him that he's no longer the orc disaster, and that he should use this new power to protect their allies. On top of this awakening, Geld is also given a Legend-class set of equipment, which they looted from the battlefield. Gabiru immediately declares himself unworthy as his men were injured during the battle, though we all know that was due to him treating the battlefield as a mere training exercise. Ultima, however, has offered to train Gobta's soldiers in magic control, and he's grateful for the opportunity. After briefly recollecting on how much Gabiru has grown, Demon Lord Rimuru grants him the title
Draco Lord,
causing Gabiru, his underlings, and Soka's group to instantly evolve on the spot. Moving on, we come to Ranga, Hakuro, and the three Demonesses. Ranga, in particular, did an outstanding job fighting with Gobta on the battlefield, which has earned him the title
Star Lord.
Now, without a doubt, Hakuro's guidance aided Gobta greatly, so Rimuru wants to reward him as well. This old man is more than content to see his daughter happily married, but Rimuru already had Kurobe forge a legendary class sword just for him, leaving Hakuro with little choice but to accept. Next is Testarossa, Ultima, and Carrera. Due to the demons being so powerful already, Rimuru is hesitant to awaken them any further, and wants to see how Diablo handles it first. But for their battle efforts, Testarossa is titled
Killer Lord,
Ultima,
Pain Lord,
and Carrera,
Menace Lord.
Bovix and Equix each receive upgraded equipment, and Ghidorah officially becomes head of the Dungeon Marvels. Kumara is titled
Chimera Lord,
somehow evolving into an even more beautiful woman than before. The Insect Queen Apito is praised for her hard-fought battle against Minutes, but due to her being defeated, she refuses to accept a gift. Instead, she just asked for the souls of her comrades that died fighting alongside her. It is possible. So Rimuru happily grants that request. Finally, we've come to Zegion, the strongest among the Dungeon Marvels. Just like the Demonesses, the thought of powering up Zegion worries our slime, but then again, it's sure to be exciting. He's given the title
Mist Lord,
and the transfer of souls causes him to begin violently shaking, but a mere moment later, he willfully seizes control of the power within himself. As expected, Zegion's transformation begins to affect Apito as well, and they both wind up resting within a cocoon for multiple days after. Though it's worth noting that during this evolution, Zegion acquires the ultimate skill,
Mephisto, Lord of Illusion.
Finally, it's come time for the Undead Trio, Alderman, Alberto, and the Undead Dragon. It's true, they lost their battle in the dungeon, however that was strictly due to having lower grade equipment. As expected, Alderman doesn't feel worthy of a reward, but Rimuru forces the awakening on him anyway, ordering him to prove this decision wasn't a mistake. Now Alberto will surely be affected by Alderman's evolution, but Rimuru gifts him Caligula's god-tier armor and sword, followed by Alberto promising to be worthy of such gear. Turning his attention to the Death Dragon, our slime wants to give it a name. I recommend using 5,000 souls for the naming. Thus, it's given the name
Vinti, Dragon Lord of the Underworld.
Immediately, a transformation takes place as it shrinks down, taking the form of a beautiful woman, who, just like her master, immediately begins praising Demon Lord Rimuru. Having saved the two crazies for last, it's finally time for Xion and Diablo. Our Oni is titled
Warlord,
and Rimuru encourages her to always keep a calm demeanor, followed by her claiming to be the calmest woman alive. With the transfer of souls, nothing happens, when suddenly Team Reborn falls unconscious, each evolving into a Death Oni. Xion wonders if maybe Rimuru has a special reward for her like he did for Gobta, so he promises to teach her a new recipe later. Now in all seriousness, it's possible that Diablo is already stronger than our slime, so Rimuru carefully encourages him to continue his servitude before titling him
Daemon Lord.
The evolution is instantaneous, and as expected, Diablo maintains perfect control of his new power. That being said, Rimuru notices that Diablo is trying something weird, and we learn that up to this point, Diablo has ignored the existence of ultimate skills, but has grown tired of Guy's bragging, so decided he wants to obtain an ultimate skill for himself. Then as expected, Diablo's subordinates power up as well, and Venom even evolves into a demon peer. With the main event over, a feast is held, where Lady Gobwa is drinking away her sorrow of losing Benimaru. Phobio complains he was literally killed by the woman he loves, and these two swiftly begin forming a relationship of their own. So with today, Tempest has 9 new lords, each wielding power equivalent to a demon lord, thus including the Primals. This group will be known as Tempest's 12 Lordly Guardians. Also, a side effect of these awakenings is that our slime has picked up a new nickname around the world, Rimuru, the Chaos Creator. Now the reason Jane attended the celebration was to ask Rimuru about the primordials, and the response she got was a simple, "Sorry, I accidentally named them." If that wasn't shocking enough, Rimuru just evolved multiple subordinates to Demon Lord level power, which she immediately should report to King Gazeel. The twin wings, Lucy and Claire, came to determine Tempest's strength, and are shocked to see it's taken 0 damage from the war. Because of this, they skip the feast to immediately return home. What she heard almost can't be believed, and even though this downcast expression makes Frey look beautiful, Carrion would like to know what's happened. Though after being told Rimuru has 7 more Demon Lord level allies, he can only assume she's joking, and wonders why Alvis hasn't reported back yet. Well, that's because she's engaged as Benimaru's second wife, and Carrion is annoyed she's not the first. That comment puts Frey off, but Carrion proclaims Frey to be the only woman in his eyes. Surely a relationship between them would never work out, as her race takes multiple husbands, while his race takes multiple wives. Anyways, the next concern is how will the Empire respond to Tempest, but Frey thinks they should be more worried about themselves. You know, maybe it's about time they seek more power, and Carrion agrees they should do as they please. Bursting inside, Milam is happy to train them. The pair scold her for sneaking up on them. Ignoring their complaints, Milam will go ask to borrow the dungeon for training. Oh, is that so? Then Frey thinks Midray will begin cooking all of her meals, causing Milam to run away, saying she's willing to train them anytime they want. As a thank you, Veldora is given some new clothes, and for Ramirez, our slime offers to name her 4 Dragon Lords. Much like the undead dragon, each of them gains a human form. Realistically though, they lack formal training, so Veldora volunteers to be their mentor. It's been 3 days since the Armor Division was resurrected, and honestly, they've been living very comfortably for being prisoners of war. Today, a meeting is being held where half of them want to return home, and the other half want to stay here in Tempest. If it wasn't for the Imperial Intelligence Bureau's incorrect information, they wouldn't be in this situation. But Bernie deemed them all idiots, as the IBB likely knew exactly what they were marching into. It turns out, Bernie is an Otherworlder, was found by Ghidorah, and wound up being trained by Damrata. At that point, he was so strong that he was thinking of overthrowing the Emperor. That was until he felt the overwhelming presence at the Emperor's side. It's revealed that the Emperor doesn't care how many millions of people die, he just wants people to awaken from the battle. Minutes exclaims that plan ended in a disaster this time, causing Caligula to apologize for not being strong enough, though Jiwoo reminds him that her and Bernie both lost to Diablo as well. So if all 700,000 defeated soldiers return home, it will surely impact country morale, so more than likely they'll be assassinated before that happens. Minutes finds it's hard to believe anyone is strong enough to dispatch all of them, but after seeing Bernie shake with fear, he understands the truth. We learn that Diablo did in fact acquire an ultimate skill, and that he can't wait to finally see Guy again. This trio arrives to the prisoners where Rimuru asks about their future plans. To his surprise, Caligula wants to stay here in Tempest, and Rimuru is shocked to learn the Emperor sacrificed his entire army just to try awakening a few people. What an interesting strategy. It wouldn't feel right sending them home to die, so Rimuru accepts their request to stay, but here in Tempest everyone has to work, and their first job is to restore Alderman's castle. Taking the highest-ranking officials with him, Rimuru holds a meeting and turns the Eye of God toward the East airships. Caligula readily gives away all the information he knows, before asking if they could please go easy on them. The request pisses Shion off, but Rimuru can't make any promises, as Hinata will be the one greeting those invaders. Next, they turn their attention to the Composite Division, and Rimuru reveals he has a pseudo-alliance with Yuki. Caligula assumes the Composite Division is staging a coup, though Bernie declares that measly force won't stand a chance. Next, they move on to discuss Bernie and Jiwoo's failed assassination attempt. Apparently, Damrata ordered them both to guard Masayuki, however they were unaware the other person was a spy as well. At this point, it's safe to assume that Damrata is a single-digit Imperial Guardian, and Bernie reveals that Kondo is their commander, and the person who ordered them to assassinate Rimuru. We also learned that Ghidorah is the only person here who's actually saw the Emperor's face. And then according to our old sorcerer, the Emperor and Masayuki look just alike. To make it more confusing, since Kondo ordered them to kill Masayuki instead, it seems like Kondo and Damrata have different goals. Asking for more details on the single digits, Bernie explains there's obviously 9, with numbers 10 and 11 being substitutes. The millions of troops making up the army is nothing more than show, as the Empire's true strength is the Imperial Guardians. From everything he's heard so far, Rimuru can only assume the Emperor's goal is to destroy the Octagram and control the world. Ghidorah then brings up Yuki's confrontation with Guy, and that it's obvious Demon Lord Guy doesn't want the East gaining any more power. Though the question then becomes, why didn't Guy personally crush the East before they gained all this strength? Testarossa proclaims that's obvious. It's because Lady Velgrind, the true dragon, keeps Guy at bay. That's also why Testarossa was always on such good behavior. Apparently, Guy might be strong enough to destroy Velgrind, but true dragons are immortal and as such will always return. Bernie then reveals that all the single digits are forced to meet Lady Velgrind, and that upon experiencing her presence, nobody would dare defy her. Rimuru then asks them to compare the Marshal at the Emperor's side and Velgrind's presence, and their stunned look confirms that the true dragon Velgrind is in fact the mysterious Marshal. Ghidorah will immediately relay this information to Yuki, and Diablo announces that he summoned Guy to discuss this as well. A few moments later, the annoyed Guy is shown to a fancy secluded room. An unknown beautiful woman is with him, and she's introduced as Veldora's older sister, the true dragon, Velzard the Ice Dragon. With Shuna serving tea, they begin discussing Guy's connection to the East, and it's pointed out how Demon Lord Guy once referred to this world as a game. Impressed at the deductions, Guy openly reveals he has an ongoing bet with the Emperor. They're forbidden from fighting each other directly, and instead agreed to only use their pawns. Of course, Rimuru is one of those pawns, and Benimaru wants to know the objective of this game. Without answering, Guy asks Rimuru for a favor, and is immediately rejected. Physically squeezing Rimuru's shoulders, Guy asks our slime to please stop the Emperor, or at the very least, to remove all of his pawns from the game. Our slime boldly wants to know what's in it for him, followed by Guy reminding everyone that Rimuru personally wrecked the world's power balance. And recognizing that Tempest is powerful enough to be seen as a threat, Rimuru reluctantly agrees to assist in this game. We learn that all Guy wants is for Rimuru to destroy the Empire, but without killing the Emperor. You see, 2,000 years ago, Guy fought the Emperor a few times, but their battles always devastated the world around them. Our slime is curious why he's being told this, and that's because Rimuru is the first person to apply this much pressure on the East. So what, does Guy want Tempest to invade the East? Well, there's no point in just looking powerful, is there? Fine, Rimuru was already wanting to pay them a visit, but he needs to know about the Emperor's ability to give out ultimate skills, though Guy doesn't think it's a big threat, as those borrowed skills are weaker versions and can only be given to awakened people. A bit later, seemingly out of nowhere, Guy wants to know how Diablo evolved, along with all those monsters in the dungeon. Say it was an experiment with Beelzebub, which used souls to force evolutions. You know, there's a lot of things about this slime that's just way too abnormal, and this is the first time Guy is told that Rimuru is an otherworlder. Well, it's about time for the guests to head home, but first, Guy wants Rimuru to awaken Misery and Rain. Previously, he tried giving Misery 10,000 souls of his own, but it didn't seem to have any effect. Named monsters can't evolve through raw souls. It will take 500,000 souls to evolve the demons. Luckily, Guy already has that many on hand, and instantly transfers them over. Not wanting Guy to witness the process, Rimuru warns that the women may fall unconscious, so thinks Guy should come back another day to retrieve them. No. Guy is happy to carry them home himself. Two intruders burst into the room. Velzard immediately asks how her little brother is doing, receiving only stutters in response. Sadly, Veldora is much too busy to spend time with her, but Rimuru graciously grants her a private room upon request. Clutching Ramirez tight, he's drug out of the room, just as Rimuru states it looks like Veldora has an issue with her. Really? Velzard never noticed, and she's the one who'd always destroy Veldora when he lost control. Well, at the very least, Rimuru has found Veldora listens to reason much better than brute force, and Velzard admits she never asked how Veldora felt about their relationship. With that, Rimuru says it's best for Guy to leave, but come on, as friends they should hang out more. Just as Rimuru is about to give up, Diablo cuts in, saying he'd like to discuss Guy's ultimate skill. Perfect, Rimuru has a room they can use, and watches Guy being forcefully drug away. Finally, the evolutions take place. 200,000 souls were consumed. Huh? Rimuru swore it said 500,000 before. I included our demonesses in the required amount. And Rimuru hopes Guy never finds out about this. That night, a feast is held. Velzard enjoys the hot springs, and Diablo thoroughly wears out Demon Lord Guy. Veldora is currently broken and bruised from the sibling reunion, and Rimuru begins thinking about how they're supposed to deal with the other sister in the east. Sometime later, Molly arrives in a panic, claiming Big Mama is here. That's the codename for Elmesia, as the three of them have become regular drinking buddies. We come to find out that one night while heavily drinking, they had the idea to start their own criminal organization with the purpose of helping the poor and controlling the underground. At the same time, they want to get their hands into foreign economic markets, open schools to teach citizens, and even implement a patent system for easy profit. Well, it's a few months later, and they now control the criminal underground and have Glinda in charge of it. At the same time, they created two official companies, which now compete against one another. Today though, Amicia is pissed, immediately asking if Rimuru has been willy-nilly evolving his subordinates. Apparently Gazeel ratted him out, but to be fair, he needs all the power he can get if he's going to fight the East. She brings up the additional primals, which Rimuru states was a genuine accident. Next, he takes a moment to explain Guy's bet against the Emperor, and Molly genuinely wishes he hadn't heard any of that. Anyways, Rimuru's current plan is to march into the East and negotiate a peace deal, only planning to resort to violence if there's no other choice. Don't worry, if he dies, Amicia will gladly take care of Tempest in his absence. Granted, he has no intention of sacrificing himself. As a final warning, Amicia reminds Rimuru that he's the only person able to control the primals, and that if he dies, the primals or any of his other Demon Lord level subordinates could rampage across this world. Allow me to introduce Robert Lopez, Sylvie, Nimrod, and Stephen Wolf as my 4 newest patrons.